Little black girl. Daddy, that waitress looks like Mommy. He turned and froze. His wife was dead. Michael's hand trembled as he picked up his coffee cup. His gaze wandered absently to Olivia, his young daughter, who sat coloring in her sketchbook. The diner was quiet, the gentle hum of conversation blending into the background, but it felt like an eternity. The air felt still, charged with something he couldn't quite place. Daddy, that lady looks like Mommy. Michael froze. The words didn't make sense at first. His heart skipped a beat. What did she say? Olivia, her small finger pointing across the room, broke him from his stupor. There, behind the counter, was the waitress. Michael's breath hitched in his chest as he studied her. The resemblance was undeniable. The same smile, the same way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the same eyes, her eyes. His mind raced. Couldn't be. Sarah was dead. He had buried her. He had held her hand as the doctors declared her gone. But here, standing in front of him, was a woman who looked exactly like Sarah. Daddy! Olivia tugged at his sleeve, her voice filled with innocent curiosity. Mommy! Michael blinked, his throat dry. He tried to swallow the lump of panic that had lodged in his chest. The room felt like it was closing in on him, and for a moment, the diner's hum faded into nothingness. He could hear nothing but the thudding of his own heartbeat. Sweetheart! His voice was barely a whisper. Mommy's gone, remember? He swallowed hard, but it felt like a lie. How could he tell her the truth when he wasn't even sure of it himself? The waitress turned, their eyes locking for a moment, and Michael's pulse spiked. There was something about the way she looked at him, something in those eyes that mirrored Sarah's. His hands shook as he placed the coffee cup down on the table. He had to know. There was no way he could ignore this. He had to find the truth. Michael stared blankly at the picture of Sarah on the mantel. His mind clouded with confusion. It had been 2 years since her death, but it felt like the wound was still fresh. Her absence had left a void so deep, it felt like a part of him had died with her. He remembered that day so clearly. The rain pounding against the windows, the screeching tires, and then the crash. The sound of his world shattering. The paramedics had come, but they couldn't save her. They told him she was gone instantly. He had held her hand, looked into her lifeless eyes, and promised her that he would be strong for Olivia. But it had been hard. Too hard. He had tried to keep it together, for his daughter's sake. He had returned to work, forced a smile for Olivia, but inside, he had withered. The grief had taken over his life, and the only way he knew how to survive was to numb himself. Olivia had been only 3 years old when Sarah died. Too young to fully understand, but old enough to feel the loss. Michael had tried to be the father she needed, but sometimes it felt like he was just going through the motions. He was still grieving, still lost, still trying to find a way to move forward without her. But no matter how hard he tried, Sarah's death haunted him, overshadowing every part of his life. And now, this woman, this waitress, was stirring up memories of his wife he had buried deep within him. He hadn't allowed himself to think about Sarah in months, hadn't allowed himself to mourn because he had to be strong for Olivia. But now, seeing this woman, it felt like everything had come crashing back. He didn't know if it was grief playing tricks on him, or if this was something else entirely. His hands clenched into fists as he stared at the picture on the mantel, his pulse quickening. Was she really gone? He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to Sarah's death. And now, this waitress, who looked just like Sarah, was the key to it all. The days that followed felt like an eternity. Michael couldn't focus on anything. His mind kept drifting back to the diner, to the woman who looked so much like Sarah. Every time he closed his eyes, her face seemed to appear in front of him, mocking his inability to understand what was happening. Was it just a coincidence? Or was something more sinister at play? Michael went back to the diner the next day, hoping that seeing the waitress again would help him make sense of it all. But she wasn't there. It was a small comfort, but it didn't ease the knot in his stomach. For the next few days, he couldn't concentrate on work. His thoughts constantly wandered back to that moment, when Olivia had pointed out the waitress. He knew he had to find out more. He couldn't let this go. That evening, after Olivia had gone to bed, Michael dug through Sarah's old papers, something he had avoided doing for months. He had kept everything: receipts, bills, medical records. But tonight, something caught his eye. A letter from Dr. Lawson's clinic. It was an invitation for Sarah to join a special program, something about memory therapy. The letter was dated just a few months before Sarah's accident. Michael's pulse quickened as he read it. Why hadn't Sarah told him about this? What was this program? And why hadn't she mentioned it to him? He felt a knot form in his stomach as he turned the letter over. There was a name and a number on the back. Dr. Lawson. The same doctor who had been there when Sarah died. He picked up his phone with shaking hands and dialed the number. Dr. Lawson's office. The receptionist answered after the second ring. "This is Michael Davis," he said, his voice tight. "I need to speak to Dr. Lawson about my wife, Sarah." "I'm afraid Dr. Lawson is unavailable right now," the receptionist replied. "But I can take a message." "No," Michael's voice was firm. "I need to speak to him. This is urgent." There was a pause on the other end. "I'll see what I can do," she said finally, before hanging up. The next day, Michael received a call from Dr. Lawson's office. "Michael," Dr. Lawson's voice came through the line, cautious. "What can I do for you?" "I need to know about Sarah," Michael said, his voice shaking with intensity. "Why didn't she tell me about this program? What was it about? What did you do to her?" Lawson hesitated. "Michael, I understand you're upset, but you don't know the whole story. Sarah, she was part of something bigger than you can understand. She volunteered for the program. She knew what she was getting into." "She volunteered?" Michael's voice rose. "You think she told me? You think I knew anything about this?" "I didn't want to involve you." Lawson's voice softened. "It was for her own good." Michael felt a rush of anger, but he swallowed it down. "I'm coming to see you." Michael walked into Dr. Lawson's office the next day, his mind buzzing with a mixture of anger and confusion. He was done with the half-truths. He needed the answers. He needed to know what had been done to Sarah. Dr. Lawson was waiting for him when he arrived, his expression weary. "Michael, I've already told you everything I can." "No, you haven't." Michael shot back, his voice low but insistent. "You've been hiding something, and I want to know what it is." Lawson looked uncomfortable. "I've already explained. The program was an experimental memory therapy. We tried to help Sarah recover from the trauma she suffered. But it went too far." "What do you mean it went too far?" Michael asked, his fists clenching. "What exactly did you do to her?" Lawson hesitated. "The therapy, it was supposed to help her forget the trauma, to rebuild her identity. But somewhere along the way we lost control. We wiped her memory, erased everything about her old life, and gave her a new one." Michael staggered back, feeling like the floor had just been ripped out from under him. "You erased her memory?" he whispered, his mind struggling to grasp the enormity of what Lawson had just said. "You made her forget who she was? Who we were?" Lawson looked away, his face filled with shame. "We never meant for this to happen. It was an experiment. We didn't think it would cause such damage." The room spun around Michael. Sarah wasn't dead. She was alive. But she was no longer the woman he had loved. She had been turned into someone else. Michael's head was spinning. Everything he had known, everything he had believed, was shattering in front of him. Sarah was alive, but she wasn't Sarah anymore. She had been wiped clean. Her memories, her identity, all gone. He needed to see her. He had to find her. He stormed into the clinic again. But this time, Dr. Lawson wasn't alone. A man in a sharp suit stood beside him, his cold eyes studying Michael as he entered. "Michael," Lawson said, trying to sound reassuring. "This is Conrad. He's with the research team. We were just discussing." "No," Michael cut him off. "I don't want any more explanations. I want to know where she is. Now." Conrad stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "You don't understand. Sarah wasn't just a test subject. She was part of something much larger. The memory program wasn't just about erasing trauma. It was about rewriting lives, creating new identities. Michael's stomach dropped. You turned her into someone else. That's the goal, Conrad said, his voice flat. We believed it was for the greater good. But now you've interfered. You've disrupted everything. Michael felt a surge of anger like never before. I don't care about your experiment. You stole my wife's identity. You erased her memories. I'll never forgive you for that. You don't have to forgive us, Conrad said coldly. But there's nothing you can do to undo it. Michael felt his pulse race. His hands shook with fury. We'll see about that. The tension in the room was thick. Michael's breath came in ragged gasps as he stared at Dr. Lawson and Conrad. He had come here for answers, but all he had found was betrayal. The truth was worse than he had imagined. Sarah hadn't just died. She had been erased, rewritten, stripped of her identity and replaced with someone new. Michael's fists clenched at his sides. He wasn't sure whether he was angry at Lawson, at Conrad, or at the world that had conspired to take everything from him. I'm not leaving here until I see her, Michael growled. His voice was low, controlled, but beneath it simmered an intensity that both men could feel. Conrad's icy gaze met Michael's. You think you can just waltz in here and fix everything? Sarah is gone. What we did, it was for a greater purpose. For whom? Michael snapped. For you? For your twisted experiments? You destroyed her. And for what? Lawson stepped forward, his face pale and strained. Michael, please, you have to understand. This was never meant to be like this. The program was supposed to help people recover, to heal, but it got out of control. We didn't know how deep the damage would go. We didn't know how it would affect her. Affect her? Michael spat. You wiped her memory, erased everything she ever was. And now you want me to just understand? You ruined my life, Lawson. You ruined her life. Conrad's voice interrupted. It's too late for regret. You've already interfered too much. You think you're going to save her? You can't fix this. She's been remade. Michael's heart pounded as the weight of their words settled in. He couldn't let this stand. He couldn't let Sarah's memory, his Sarah, be lost forever. He had spent years mourning her, and now he was finally confronting the people who had stolen her from him. He wasn't going to back down. I don't care what you say, Michael said, his voice filled with raw emotion. You won't get away with this. I'm going to find her, and I'll bring her back, no matter what it takes. Conrad stepped closer, a dangerous smile curling on his lips. You can try, Michael, but you'll find that some things are beyond your control. And when it all unravels, you'll wish you'd never gotten involved. Michael didn't flinch. He felt the weight of his words, the determination coursing through his veins. He wasn't afraid of them anymore. He had already lost everything. He had nothing left to lose. I don't care about the consequences, Michael said. If I have to tear this place down to get her back, I will. The room was silent for a moment. Michael's heart beat in his chest, each pulse steady and resolute. He could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy. There was no turning back now. The investigation had taken months. The pieces were slowly falling into place. The clinic had been shut down. Dr. Lawson and Conrad had been arrested, their twisted experiments exposed to the world. But even as the authorities moved in and the media swarmed, Michael's mind was focused on one thing: finding Sarah. The phone call came at dawn. Michael had barely slept, his mind still spinning with everything he had uncovered. When the investigator on the other end of the line spoke, Michael's heart skipped a beat. Michael, we've found her, the investigator said. She's in recovery. She's alive, and she wants to see you. Michael's hands shook as he hung up the phone. This was it. He had spent so long chasing answers, but now the truth was within his reach. He could feel the weight of it, the significance of the moment. He had to see her, to hold her again. But what if she didn't remember him? What if everything had changed? He couldn't let fear control him. He had to go to her. The recovery center was quiet, tucked away in the corner of the city, far from the chaos that had consumed Michael's life for so long. As he approached the door, his heart was in his throat. Every step felt like a test. Was she really alive? Would she remember me? He opened the door to the small room where Sarah was waiting. There she was, his Sarah. But something was different. Her face was softer, her eyes filled with confusion. The woman who had once been his everything now felt like a stranger. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Michael's eyes searched her face, hoping for some sign of recognition, but there was nothing. Sarah was standing there, alive, but she wasn't the woman he remembered. She was someone else. Michael! Her voice trembled, uncertain. She took a hesitant step forward. I don't know you. His heart shattered, but he refused to let the pain take over. It's me, Sarah. Your husband. She took another step back, her brow furrowing. I don't remember you. I don't remember anything. Michael felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had hoped for more. He had hoped for a reunion, for a moment when everything would return to normal. But this wasn't normal. Nothing would be normal again. But even as the despair threatened to overwhelm him, he held his ground. You will, Sarah, he said, his voice full of conviction. You will remember. And even if you don't, I'll be here. I won't give up on you. There was a long silence as Sarah looked at him, her face filled with confusion and sadness. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, she reached out to him. Her hand trembled as it brushed against his. I don't know how to start over, she whispered, her voice barely audible. We'll do it together, Michael replied, his voice steady. One step at a time. And in that moment, Michael realized that while the past could never be fully restored, they still had a future. A future where Sarah could rebuild herself, where he could help her piece together the fragments of her old life. The journey wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't be the same as before, but it was a journey they would take together. No matter what came next, Michael knew that as long as they had each other, they would be okay.